Hey everybody, I'm Brian with Fort Knox Company, and I'm going to show you how to add an outlet to an existing circuit and move it up the wall so that you can do this yourself. So let's go ahead and just jump right into it. First thing you got to do is figure out what outlet you want to branch off of. We are going to be moving directly up on the wall, so you are going to have to work within a certain area between the two studs that the outlet is mounted. For this one right here, I actually have only about an 8 or 10 inch gap between the next two studs because I have a window right here. It's mounted on this side of the stud, so I had to work between the window and that stud in the wall. If I do need to jump over and actually move across the wall and then up, I have another video showing that, but there is some drywall work involved. There is a couple different ways to do it, but either way, it's pretty hard to avoid doing any drywall work. So I will also have that video here and I'll link it in the description below. But before we get too deep into this, let me go over a quick little supply list, some of the tools or parts that you might need. We're going to start with a voltmeter, which I'll use to make sure that my circuit is off. It's good to always have one of these in the house. You obviously have your stud finder that you can run along the wall because you do want to know which side the stud is on the original box. And you also want to make sure that you are placing it within the cavity. And if you have to jump over to different studs, I have another video that will show you how to actually do that. But in this case, we're going to be going straight up in the wall. This is how we're going to get that wire straight up in the wall. This is a Klein or Klein fishing tape. Definitely need one of these, especially if you're going to ever be doing any electrical work. And you can also use it to fish and pull through other items that you may be doing or working around the house. I love using these. These are new outlets. This is a 20 amp or 15 amp outlet. It is the Leviton quick push. And one of the reasons I love these is because it's so quick. You put the wires in, you hit the tabs, and then you're all done. This is a old work box, and this is also an old work box. The differences here are the depths. So one of the reasons I would use this when I'm replacing the one down there is because I have more wires going into the box now, and I might need some more room to make sure everything is being able to connect correctly, and I can still tuck it back in and put the outlet in place. But for the one above, the new one up here, I'm going to be using a standard one. And since there's only one set of wires going in here, it's going to be very easy to pull it through and put in this new outlet right here. And I'll have plenty of room to put those wires. Then I also like using these. These are WAGO quick connects. And again, you can still use the twist caps. That's an old school thing, but these are just a little bit newer. And one of the reasons I like using these is because they're very low profile, and I am using a bigger box, so I have more room, but this will also give me more room. When you're pigtailing 3 or 4 sets of wires, you have to use a really, really big wing nut, and those giant wing nuts take up a lot of space in there. So it's not really the wires, but it's the giant wing nuts that you have to keep tucking back. So I like using these for my connections, and again, they're very fast. And then obviously we're gonna have a couple hand tools like a multi-tool, a sawzall, and then of course our 12-2 yellow wire. In this video, we are going to be moving it straight up. So we are going to first figure out which outlet we're going to use, then take a stud finder and run it across the wall, figure out which side your outlet is on. And that way we make sure before we start cutting into anything, we are okay with where the outlet can be placed. And really the most important step before you do anything is turn the power off. I have a voltmeter here. This is something that I use all the time. I just plug it in, it lets me know that the outlet is live, and then I can go to my breaker box and I can turn it off. That way I know that when I start handling these wires, I don't have to worry about getting shocked or starting a fire. So now that you have the power off, we can go ahead and remove the faceplate, pull your outlet out, and you don't have to worry about handling the wires. Disconnect your outlet and then try to straighten those wires out, because once we do remove this box, it's gonna make it a lot easier. We've also identified that the stud is on the right side. Sometimes when you pull the outlet out, if you look right along the drywall, you can actually see the wood there. But either way, we use the stud finder to confirm this. Now, this is kind of where the two theories of how to do this kind of separate. Some people like leaving the original box in the wall because they say, hey, why go through all the trouble and cutting it out and putting in a new one? They obviously haven't really tried to use the original one and run wires through it, because yes, it can be done. You can open up one of the unused openings in the back of the box there as you're working around the wires that are still in, and then you can use your fishing tape and you can fish through the back of the box, and you can hope that it's going in the right direction, because you have a very limited amount of space to work in to actually guide that fishing tape up. Then if you do catch it, that's great, that's half the battle. But now when you go to pull that wire back through, again, if you haven't messed with Romex and trying to pull it through these boxes, it catches on everything, and you're gonna end up peeling or snagging or eventually pulling off the snake, and then you're gonna have to re-snake the whole thing. It is time consuming and you'll be ripping your hair out. So now whenever I do these, I just zip the box out. I work with the wires, get the old one out. Then you have all the space inside the wall to work with. But yes, if you have those questions, you can fish the wire through the back of the old one, but good luck. So now that we've gotten that out of the way, we are going to cut this box out. Take yourself a flathead screwdriver, wedge it in between the box and the stud, and then push towards the box. Don't do what I did the first time and actually push it in and then push towards the drywall, and you'll see really quick that your screwdriver will go right into that drywall and the box barely moves. So if you do that or you damage any of the drywall, don't worry. I did on this one when I was removing the box, and we got it all fixed. So when we were all said and done, it still took just a few more minutes to patch up that drywall. But at the end of the day, you're going to save yourself so much time actually removing it and then putting it in a new box, because you're going to save it on the back end. But once you have some space created between the box and the stud, you can see or feel where the nails are. You're going to take your Sawzall, you're going to come in down at an angle and just lightly let it run on its own. Usually the weight of the tool will get it done in just a few seconds. Zip through the bottom nail, zip through the top nail, and then you can move the box around. Sometimes you do have to reach in there as you move the box and use some needle nose pliers to push around the nail, because the nail still does stick out a little bit on top of that box. And as you're trying to pull it through, there's a piece of that nail that's actually snagging. Again, this isn't a huge problem, but if you take a little bit of time just to do that, it should be able to be wiggled out. And then straightening out your wires really does help. Because of the way the Romex is designed and those boxes are designed, it's meant to grab the wire. So again, you can take a screwdriver and kind of move the tabs in the back and create some space. The wire should slide right out. Then you can pull your box out. And as you can see here, I did damage the drywall a little bit, but I am gonna just go with it because it happened, and it's what happens on DIY projects. Sometimes you intend to have it go perfectly and then you have a little bit of drywall work, but don't worry, I repaired the drywall right after I was done. So as you can see here, it's all finished, and it only took me a few more minutes to bring it right back to new. Real quick, if you haven't already, hit like, hit subscribe, and you can also check out the new Fort Knox t-shirts. I have the website live. Everything on there I design and I print myself. That is actually why we are finishing this room, moving this outlet up. I'm going to be making a new production/studio where I can edit, and pretty much most of this room is going to be going to indoor t-shirt production, so I can bring it out of the garage and into the house. So if you want to support me in the channel, hit like, hit subscribe, or maybe even grab yourself a cool t-shirt. Now that we have the old box removed, we can see that we have the wires there. In my situation, I have an insulation that is blown in. It's not like your normal batten insulation. So it does add a little bit of difficulty when trying to fish. It seems to move the fishing tape a little bit differently, but you can either push the fishing tape up along the drywall, or you can use the stud if you're right next to it as a guide. And that usually helps it kind of stay in one place. And then when you reach inside the new hole that you make for the new outlet, you can actually use that stud or that drywall as like a place of where it should be. We are then going to pick which location we want that new outlet to be in. Now I know that I have a few inches between the window and where that stud is, so I use my stud finder again to make sure I can stay on the right side. I will then take my old work box. This is just a standard one, it's not the deep one. I will place it on the wall, make sure that it's level and plumb, and then I'll mark around the outer edges. You can see there's certain areas where there's tabs that will grab on the outside of the drywall. So you want to mark the smallest perimeter as you can, and then you can always work out if you have to take away a little bit of material. So mark around the smallest perimeter, make those lines match, and then I go in with my multi-tool and it zips right out, and this is really quick. Now that we have that opening, go ahead and do yourself a dry fit. Remember that when you put the old work box in there, the tabs will sometimes fall down just from gravity. So when you push it in there, it fits, and when you go to pull it out, it sticks. All you have to do is take a screwdriver and turn the top or bottom screw to bring the tabs back into place, and it should pull right out. Now here kind of comes the fun part, which is using your fishing tape. This is a Klein fishing tape. I use it all the time. We are going to fish it either from the top down or from the bottom up. Either way is your choice. Just figure out if it's in line, or if for some reason you have the outlet, the new one, moved over. Just try to shoot in that angle as you're pushing the tape up. On this one, it took me 3 tries, but I did get it done. I was having a little bit of trouble because the way that this insulation works, it was causing the fish tape to kind of move sideways. So as I knew I had enough length, it was not landing in the right spot. So I tried from the top, and I was able to get it on the very first try. And now that we have our fishing tape pushed all the way through, we can then take our Romex, tape it to it. Make sure you tape over the end so that it has a smooth transition, and as you're pulling it through the insulation, it doesn't want to catch. Then it's just as simple as pulling that fishing tape back out, and you're going to feed that wire through. Make sure that you have wire on the ground laying a little bit flat. This will help with actually pulling it through. Then we can catch the Romex at the top, and the hardest part is really done. We have the wire fed from the old location to the new location, and we can now disconnect the fishing tape and put it away. Next, we're going to install this old work box, pop open one of the tabs, feed the wire through, and then put the box in place and secure it. Now that we're up here, we can go ahead and finish this part. We are going to wire and install our new outlet and faceplate. I am going to be using one of these new outlets that has the push connects. It has these little tabs on the side. You strip your wire, you push it in, you hit the tab, and you can secure your outlet in less than like a minute. So I really do like these because they're time saving, and if you ever have to do any repairs or replacements, or for some reason you need to remove it and do some work, it's really quick, it's really easy. You don't have to mess with twisting any wires, making sure the hooks are going in the right direction. It's on and off really quick, and they're very secure. So as usual, black to black, white to white, and then our ground to our green tab, and we can secure this in place and put the faceplate on, and we're all done up here. Now we can move on down back to the bottom, the original outlet, and I'm going to show you what they normally call, which is a pigtail. It's where you're taking the original wires, which is usually 2 sets. It's power coming in and then power going out. We are now branching off of that like a T. We are going to connect all 3 blacks, all 3 whites, and all 3 grounds on a bar. And I like using these new wire connectors. They are a little bit more, but you can see what you're doing. They are very fast, and they're also very slim. And that is really a time saver in itself, because when you have this many sets of wires coming into one box, space is valuable. So like I said, we're connecting all 3 together, and then we're coming off of that one connection with a single lead. So off of the 3 blacks, we're going to be bringing 1 off. So there's going to be 4 wires in total, 3 that are going to be active and 1 that is actually coming off to power this outlet. So that shares the power for all the outlets, and it allows them to send the power down the chain. We will do the same thing with the whites, the neutrals, and we'll do the same thing with the grounds. Make sure that we're tucking everything back and that the connectors are staying secure. These connectors do go in very easy, and it's very minimal inside. But the biggest thing is that when you pigtail and you have all 3 together with 1 lead coming off, it makes it very easy for the outlet to be able to be pushed back into the box and secured. So once you have all that done, you have all your wires tucked in, you have your outlet re-secured, making sure that when you're turning the wires on these type of old outlets, that you're turning the wire in the direction that you'll be tightening. So for example, on the hot side, the black wire, I'm turning it up and over, and then on the other side for the white and the ground, I'm turning it over and down. Depends on your orientation, but just think about which way you're going to be tightening that screw, so that way you don't make your hook in the opposite direction that you're tightening, and it will actually open up the wire, and again, this causes a big headache. Now you can put everything back in place, put your faceplate back on, and yes, I did have a little bit of drywall damage like I mentioned earlier, but here's the finished product again. It only took me a few minutes, and it is all back to new, so no harm, no foul. But I do want to keep it real with you guys, because that is the kind of stuff that happens when you do these projects yourself. So I'm not saying that this usually requires drywall work, but in this case it required a little bit of patching. Not a big deal. Now the last step is going and turning your power back on and then testing your outlet. We're going to test the original one first, and then we can also test the one up above, the new one. They are both working. Everything is good. The breakers are not popping, and we can move on with our day. And in case you're wondering, one of the reasons that we wanted this outlet up here specifically is because we're trying to move our internet and our Wi-Fi and everything up and off the ground. The signal is a lot better up high. Then I'll eventually have a desk in this office area, and if I want to, I can connect directly to my internet. I can have the printer station. This room is going to be an office / production room. If you don't know already, I do make t-shirts. I design them and print them myself. So if you do want to pick up a shirt and you want to support me in the channel, you can go ahead and click on the shirts that I have in the description. I have the website live. Everything in there I make and design myself, and it's just something I like doing. It's fun, and I got some really cool designs. But other than that, that's pretty much it. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. I get back to all my comments. I like hearing back from you guys. If you have any suggestions or tips for me, but I really do appreciate you watching, and I'll see you on the next build.